Windows. Okay, I have my television disconnected in Windows so that it does not project the resources to that screen, right? So when I blue screen, it drops me down and projects to that monitor, i.e. my television, which should be disconnected and inactive to begin with. If I'm watching, which I was, a YouTube video at the time, I have to shut it down, go to the settings in the television to view that monitor, which shouldn't have been active in the first place. So we're back on Windows. I have a Windows screen. Houston, we have liftoff. Let's see if flight sim will load again. What was I doing before? What did I do? Oh, the minute it was setting my audio settings, right? I was messing with the settings in here, and everything looks to be right. So what I thought we'd do, you don't want any of these other waypoints, Firehawk? You don't need them. I think I put them in the events. If you go up in Hype and you go into their events, I think the waypoints are in there actually. That's another.
You know what? I think
I did start the event. Okay, I'm going to try to fire up the flight sim again. With a new reboot. Hey, that can't be all bad, right? I mean, a new reboot could be good. So it kept my screen from my flight sim half screened. So I'm going to leave it that way while the line comes across and hope we get booted in right. Oh man. Okay, so let's work on this real quick because this is going to need to be made bigger because I don't like its size. That's a little better. I still don't like it real well. That's what we're going to go with. So the line on the flight sim is coming across on the other screen over here. When it shows up in here, right now it's at 17%, jumped to 19, and running across. So when it gets on this screen, it should show. Here's the problem. I've been coming in this morning, and flight sim will get to about here nice and fast, and all of a sudden it'll go black. So let's hope it goes in all the way again this time. It did last time. We got lucky. And then we'll resize the window there. get in. They should get me in. Still going across. Everything looks good, and I got a start button. Yay. Okay, so now we can come into the world map. And we can resize this window. All right, WX53 Whiskey X-Ray 53 at Bugalaga. This is a fun little airport. If anybody viewing has not been here, I don't have my chat running. I really didn't think I was going to get the sim up this morning. But it looks like Osobo is going to finally cooperate. And we'll get ourselves in. At least I hope so. Oh, it's pitch black in Pawpaw. Pitch black.
Yeah,
Pitch black in Pawpaw. Boy, that helicopter looks good in the rear. Oh, wait a minute. Ooh. All right, let's get some daylight. What do you say? And I'll bet you got to go. Ooh, I was wrong. So that's sunset at 17:52. Let's back it up to 15:30. And we shut that. Pawpaw is kind of a cool little place. I always liked this airport. I've also got an audio problem. My audio is going in and out. Every 5 seconds or so, it decides it doesn't want to cooperate, and it drops my audio. It's a lot of fun to play with. Sounds like crap, but hey, what are we going to do? I haven't even looked over to stream to see if any audio is coming in there. I know my mic is, yeah, and it's getting the sound drop out too. I can see that. Cool. I can't fix it. I don't know what the problem is. And adding music would just give more garbage. So we'll not bother with that. Okay, well, I think I have actually made it to the airport. I could throw
yeah,
up
I think I'm there.
one little goodie just to look. I'm getting about 25 frames. That's not bad. I like this little airport. It's kind of cool. If we raise up and spin around and kind of look at the inhabitants here, because this is actually a little town in its own right. Even has houses stuck back here in the trees. let's see, oh, F9.
Check power. Check power. Check power. Vortex. Vortex.
Yeah, cool little airport. So one thing I didn't check, I loaded a new copy of, well, not a new copy. I'm hoping it's a current enough copy, actually. Uh-oh. That didn't work. No, it didn't load. So. Damn. That's not what I meant to do. Good grief. So are we ready?
I just lifted off.
Okay, I don't see you. So we're off to a banging start. We had this problem last week as well, not seeing people. Cool, cool, cool. I've got a rotary problem, and I didn't rotate my HTOS. Why am I having a rotary? And oh, SAS is off. What the hell happened here? So yeah, I don't see you, Firehawk. This is a bad thing, because we obviously both rotated our time, right?
Yeah, let me look. I'm at. I actually moved mine forward.
I moved mine back, but that shouldn't matter. The way I understand it, I'm not here.
52.
I'm not hearing all of your transmission. My sound keeps dropping out. So
So what? You moved yours back, so you're still showing in May 4th.
I don't know.
May the 4th be with you.
Yeah, right. I'm on May 5th.
Okay, what's your time?
My time is 15:34. I set it up at 15:30 because that's about 3 hours, 3.5 before sunset, and that way we can run into the airport around sunset.
Okay, so I'm at 15:34 on May 5th.
Right, that's where I am.
Let me see what I'm lost. I don't even know where I am.
On May 5th. I don't have live weather, but these things shouldn't matter, Firehawk. The way I understand, it's just a bug in us not seeing each other is just a bug in the time slot, and that you're only supposed to have to back the time off. In order to, back it off 2 minutes is what everybody said, and it's always worked for me. I mean,
Are you still at the airport?
I'm in the vicinity.
All right, let me get turned around here. See if I can see you.
I'm like, let's see, at almost a mile out. I'm headed back though. And I see no tag.
No. Let's see.
Yeah, I'm coming in about 30 knot on approach. Just kind of moseying. And I'm not seeing anything. Not even seeing the airport mark, to tell you the truth. But I'm probably too close. At least I think that's the airport. Let's see.
Vortex. Vortex. Vortex.
So I'm coming into a patch here. This isn't the airport, it can't be. So the airport's on up.
Okay, I'm sitting down over at the north. I guess it'd be the western end.
Okay, the airport's over on the other side over here. I see the airport.
Pretty sure I set my server, but I need to.
Well, I don't ever do anything with my server, so it shouldn't be wrong.
I don't ever leave it on Southeast Asia
Yeah, I do.
unless we're just flying.
I do almost always, so like I say, mine should be right. I'm at the top of the runway.
So let's. Maybe because my aircraft traffic type should be real time online.
Huh.
Hmm?
My
Multiplayer's turn.
real time.
Multiplayer server.
Yeah.
Hey. Show me. Yeah, okay. Should work.
My default view just went to a left-hand seat view. I shit you not. What has
No. I mean that happens to me all the time.
what has
I
happened?
don't know. I can't find out.
I have
can't.
never had
I
this
have
happen.
looked about how to set up these default views.
I get my defaults. I get my defaults fine. In fact, it has still got my settings. It's still got the ones that I put in here.
Well, yeah, but all of those, Brad, all of those are derived from whatever is in your camera setup as far as being like pilot view or wide angle, whatever. All of your saved settings are derived from, how far back, how far up, how far over,
Right.
from that one base thing. And like you, seems like every time.
Yeah, and that's what
the
I'm.
base is
They just happened. It just happened. I didn't re-log in or anything. I just landed back at the airport, and when I can't, because I was a little bit past the runway. When I got back to the runway and set back down, all of a sudden my view popped and put me on a default. When I clicked my keybind for the default reset, it goes back to a pilot aircraft pilot view.
So one of the things that I did is I went in settings, went to the camera setting,
Yeah.
and I I I think it's what the horizontal or whatever is left right normally is at 50. I moved it to I think I'm sitting at 75 now, but I forced the camera off that 50% mark, and ever since then, it's been much better.
Check this out. I just went to my settings window, came back out of it, came back into the aircraft, and I am back at a default correct. You can't make this stuff up, Firehawk. I just did it live on camera. Go figure a sobo. I just did it live on stream, and, and it is. I'm pressing my default. I even went to my camera settings to see if my the way I set my cameras up is right, and it is indeed still got all of my camera settings, but I pushed the reset keybind, and boom, I'm back to a correct helicopter pilot side of the aircraft. Again, now I don't know what I did. I can't recreate the problem to help you guys diagnose the... Huh?
Don't tell them about it. They'll charge you for that extra feature.
Right. No, it actually, because it put me in that seat, and I've got that pilot active inside the cockpit. I ended up in him until it refocused. You know what I'm saying? So he came up, whereas in my seat there is nobody. I don't show that character, and when it put me back in, I was on the right side. Firehawk, how do I fix this problem if I can't F it up? If I can't F it up, how do I fix it?
Yeah, like spawning in the pilot's head, right behind his sunglasses.
Well, that's where it put me. That's where it put me on the other side of the cockpit when it came back in. I mean, it's like, oh no, what do I do now?
There's got to be a way to manipulate the default camera and get all that set up. But you know what? I can't find anybody that has information. If you do a search, the only thing you're going to find is, well, here's how you load, or here's how you save a custom view, and here's how you bring it back, and here's how you can do this. But it's like, no, that's easy stuff. How do you manipulate that default view where it wants to go by itself and creates the base? And no one has any information on that I can find.
Is anyone aware of the problem?
I don't know, because I've posted the camera issue a couple of times, and the only response back is crickets chirping. So
okay, now
I just figured out
is this happening in other aircraft?
Yes, for me.
It is.
It's across the
It
board.
has happened across the board for you. So it's not a Dave problem. He's not going to pay. So you're talking about posting. You've posted in the forums that would be relative, obviously, and no one knows or
no one comes back and says, "Hey, I'm seeing the same thing."
acknowledges the problem. I've never had it. I've never had it happen. I think you've told me about it, and I think it was, but yours lasts for much longer. Is that correct? And you thought it was connected to the beta program. Isn't that what we talked about like last week or the week before?
I don't think necessarily beta is that what really jacked them up first time around was the when I used beta, I had to do the layout generator, and it was after doing layout generator that I started seeing that in the bad in helicopters. But thinking about it, no, it's kind of been around. For example, I have the DC-3, same thing. I like you. I have custom views for out the cockpit, down on the console, and out the window, and all the different views that you need to fly that.
And in the helicopter, I mean, I can't be without being able to look down, whether, straight down outside the cab or inside the cab, looking down my foot window, because that's how I land.
So I go through and I set up all those custom views and I save them and they're all good. And then maybe the next day I come in and log in, and when I press the on the numpad, when I press the 8 key to go, look out the window from the pilot seat, I might be 20, 30 feet in front of the airplane, or I might be back in the back cabin behind all the EMS stuff, or I might be outside looking down, at the door, because those settings, those views that I saved, are derived from a base view that seems to be changing all the time. So then, like I say, I went in and I changed the horizontal setting in the camera view.
And I've done that. And I've done that, but it's kept that setting through this mishap today that's never happened before and just happened here on stream to me. And it didn't reset all of that stuff on me. You're saying on you, I'm looking at it may happen to that degree to me because I've just acquired the symptom in the first place. Wow.
It's just hard. It's just hard to say.
You sure?
But since resetting that one camera setting, and at least for the helicopters, I went through and took out all the hype helicopters, reloaded them, and reloaded with the current patches, and I think that's it. It seems now the camera views are all stable. I've not had any problems with them for the last probably 4 or 5 days. So I think, knock on wood, I think I'm sort of past that.
I have never seen this happen, and I hope it doesn't happen again. And I'm glad I was on the ground when it happened. I don't think that it could be because I hopped back into the airport actual runway space. Could it be attached to a scenery queue? You know what I mean?
I don't think so.
Because I had gone past when I came back into airport. I went, and I landed at the very touch end, so I, didn't end up in somebody that was spawning in, and then came back. And when I came back and landed on that spot, all of a sudden it poof. I mean, these things are just weird to me, much like the group bug that we had a year or so ago where I couldn't see anybody and all of a sudden went into it. Hey, do this, let's do that. Can we join in the group real quick and come back in here normal?
How do we do that? What do you mean?
Oh, I'm gonna open the group. Okay. And I'm gonna invite you in. I think. I don't know. I don't even see you on my friends list. Why is that? Firehawk. Why are we not even friends in game? So current group, just me and.
Is this in Discord or in the flight sim?
No, in the sim. We're talking about flight sim bugs, flight sim quirks, okay? And we're talking about not seeing each other. And a year and a half, 2 years ago, when I first came into Flight Sim 2020, I went 2.5, 3 days the streams, back when I was streaming twice a week and then Sunday to boot. And it was real frustrating, and all of a sudden, I want to say it was DJ Eric, because all the community was pulling together and trying to figure this out, and he comes to me, he says, join my group. So I just joined a group. When I joined his group, poof, everybody showed up. I could see everybody all of a sudden. So how do I invite you to this group? Add friend. Add friend. What is your in-game tag name exactly? Capital F?
Firehawk.
Capital F?
Pounds.
IR.
920.
All one word. Hawk. Pound sign. No space.
It doesn't look like it. 4920.
4920. I'm gonna send you a friend request, I think. Says it was sent.
Yeah, there it is. Oh, I see. There's a group thing. Can you send that to me again? Oh, wait. Here we go. No, got it. the way that popped down to accept your friend request was also right on top of when I paused the game to end flight. So I clicked on the accept request. It's like end flight.
Oh. Click on it, look up, and wait a minute. That's not the screen I thought I was on. Invite to group. Here we go.
Okay.
So just for shoots and ladders, shits and grins if you like, but just for shoots and ladders, let's join this group. I'm going to go to the current group and see you're in the group. And I still don't. Okay, wait a minute. So I'll go back into the sim.
Yeah, I have to resume.
And then I'm going to just again for shoots and, oh God, it's going to get loud now. There we go. Back off, give me some speed. And I still don't see you, and you're in the group.
Yeah, let me go check something here. But the problem is when you're flying so remote like this, when I turn my tags on and off, because there's nobody else around, I don't ever know whether my tag is on or off. So
well,
I have to make sure I go into settings and actually see it. How do I do that? Let's see. Chat, show multiplayer.
I was in an active pause, but it is not active pause now.
Let's see. Well, flight interface? Turbulence. Markers. Show traffic nameplates. Okay, so I should be able to. That's on. Okay, so I should be on right now. So if you're there.
Okay, I'm in menus. I'm in menus right now, so you're not going to see me. But I've got multiplayer server Southeast Asia. Show multiple players in proximity. Air traffic, live weather, real time online. Photogrammetry's off, and so where do I? Is that in graphics? No. Assistance? No.
No. Where did I just see that? You mean turn the tags on and off?
Yeah.
It is. I just saw that in flight interface. And this is where you can turn on the aerodynamic visualization, wake turbulence visualization, landmark markers, city markers, airport markers, show pre-flight pins. Don't know what those are.
Those are the little the Firehawk the pre-flight pins. If you're in a checklist aircraft, it's mostly for fixed wing, but it does work on the helis as well. And you're doing your walk around, there are pins with little flags hanging from them, and you have to click on each one of those, and that's what those pre-flight pins are. I shut mine off. City markers. So that's where I'm at. Everything looks right. Instrument name, tags, off, delayed, lock, HUD, minimal, and nameplates is on. So everything's right, and I'm back in the airport, and I guess when it comes back in, it takes you off of active pause because I'm not in active pause anymore. But I still don't see anybody at the airport. And here's the thing. I don't know if this is a me problem or, I mean, all my settings seem to be right. So I don't see how, it could be a me problem. It's, to me, just a go figure a sub on. So we're still in the same group, right?
As far as I know.
I'm going to go back out into the settings on active pause and look at my group, and yeah, we're in the same group.
There are some settings you can only do before you actually spawn into a flight, and those are what the flight conditions.
Yeah.
And there's some graphic stuff, but I hate to do that because then I'll lose my flight plan that I just loaded up.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't go back to the main window. I haven't even loaded the flight plan. I mean, I'm still screwing around here. So let's go ahead and do that, just because we're gonna need to if we're ever gonna fly this, we'll need to anyway. Boogalaga, boogalaga, boogalaga. And then boogalaga, boogalaga. This airport. I do, it's cool.
Isn't there
Huh?
Isn't this the airport where there's some YouTube videos of the guys, bringing in their latest cargo ship and trying to land in here?
I think
this is those famous airports.
I don't think I've seen that, but years ago when 2020 first came out, this was one of the first landing challenges. And the thing is, you'd come from the other side and have to make a left turn around the hill and come in that way. And it made it rather challenging landing in that direction, and even to find it because it's very covered with trees. And it became a favorite airport for me because of that reason. But they've really improved on the graphic representation of this particular hut environment, to the point of even if you take your helicopter on down the hill, just a hop, skip, and a mule ride down, you can see another little development where there's a couple of houses and over the hill here. I find it an interesting airport. It's kind of cool to me. But we're going to fly out of it today. And again, I was just going to start my overlay. I didn't want to do this, but I'm going to anyway. Oh, and now it's going to make me sign in. Give me a break. Oh, come on, man. Really? Really? Seriously? I mean, it always signs me in. Why does it keep doing that to me? Great little tool, Race Labs for iRacing, and I use it in other games just for my streaming abilities because it does have several features and is read by other games. It has chat feature. It actually brings my, if I can find my mouse, actually brings up a lot of goodies. When I'm just using it for chat overlay, I don't need all these other goodies. So. Chat overlays up. I can see there's nobody in Twitch. Cool. So you want to make these hops, Firehawk? You just want to talk about?
I'm heading.
Are you? I should have been on
I'm
my.
heading to Yankee Bravo.
But I can't see you. Oh, I started to have aircraft sounds. I have aircraft sounds. Cool. It keeps cutting out, but I do have aircraft sounds. That's cool.
Holding your lips together and going count.
No, that and I tried that. It's no fun. After a while, it's like the lips get to tickling and stuff. The upper lip kind of vibrates against the nose. You go to sneeze and really.
In a pinch, you can take a deck of cards, clothespin a couple of them to a fan.
I've got a bicycle back here, and if I just do that with the spokes and run the pedals around, I can sit here like this, one hand on that, one hand on push to talk, and fly my heli with my knee, right? Just to prove how stable and well flying machine my heli is. I'll do that one day. One day in the near future, coming to a hometown near you. Not. What are you flying today, Firehawk? You in the heli?
145. Yeah, I got those running again.
Awesome. And the 145? Cool.
Yeah.
Cool. So, are there any? Because I've installed, but I haven't flown the 145 in a long time, which is a shame because I do have skin for my personal. Everything works in it? That was a question.
So as of last week, I was at that choice. I could either opt out of beta and fly the hype helicopters or stay in beta and not have helicopters. What I ended up doing was going into Hype Operations Center, removing all packages, doing, cleaning out everything that involved them, reinstalling, putting the new patches in place, then running the layout generator again on the appropriate files to clear the activation issue, and then I did that little tweak with the camera deal, and it's all golden. It's been golden since I did all that.
Unbelievable.
Yeah. But not really. I mean, look at the H145. I mean, it's between that and the Action Pack. I lost count, but I think we're up to something like 1,400, 1,500 files to run those a helicopter.
Is that right?
And it's all just ones and zeros. And if you're doing something while it's loading up and a little spark zips around on your computer, one of them zeros becomes a one, then your cameras don't work. I mean, it's just that simple.
It really is. It really is too. And your computer may pull that same one or zero the same way, and somebody else's computer might not. And that's the challenge with programming, is you've got to make it work for everybody in everybody's situation. It's really hard to diagnose these things. So, I mean, I get all that, because not only have I done beta testing, but I've also been a programmer, and I mean, it is just like that, what you just said. I never heard it quite explained that way, but that's the fact.
Yeah, it's just so fragile. And that could be an Asobo problem. It could be a Microsoft Server problem. It could be, in my case, I have, I still call it Charlie, but Spectrum Internet. It could have been a little hiccup at the central office here in town. Who knows? But I was going to say, the one thing I do like, it makes me laugh. Look at the complexity of the sim now between the two different programs, and everybody's got different controllers, and right? You're talking about everybody's environment is different, and somebody will pop up on the 145 chat in Discord, and it's like, hey man, this helicopter is rubbish. It doesn't fly. Anybody got any ideas? And or the one I saw last week. Somebody comes up and says, hey, is it my helicopter rotors are doing this? Is that normal? I mean, no background. What are you using for controllers? What version are you in? Blah blah. And so the answer, somebody came back and went, yep.
where do you start? Yeah, where do you start?
Yeah.
And that
guy goes, yep, what? Yep to what? And the guy goes, yeah, what's your question? I mean, you're help us help you.
Well, and that's the thing. I started to do a ticket this morning on tech support, and it's like, okay, wait a minute. They want to know what the last thing you did before you encountered this issue. And it's like, okay. But I did 15 things before I came back into the flight sim after a week. Yeah. After a week of having other problems in my computer, which I've been on the phone with higher technicians than a game, an actual operating system, just to try to conquer. And now we're talking, I mean, my week's been like this, Firehawk. I actually had to reinstall AVG free. I don't know if you're a backer of AVG, but years and years ago I had McAfee and Norton on my computer, and I had a virus, and I knew I had a virus and I couldn't find it, and I had to take my computer to a specialist and pay him hard-earned money, which, if you know anything about me, I've never had. So he found the problem. I said, what was the problem? He said, well, I support this software. It's called AVG Free. Now, this is back in the day when AVG was just that, AVG Free. So I installed AVG free then, and I've installed it and reinstalled it each and every time I thought I had a virus, just to try to detect that virus and figure out what I was up against. Well, this time I'm searching for a virus frantically, because here's what I'm having. My settings window, Windows settings window, in the mixer will show a connection for my browser for Microsoft Flight Simulator and for other applications that are running at the time through my software in Windows. My Windows settings mixer sound settings. So when I go to set those sound settings in my settings window for my browser, it opens another settings, not window, but drop down, and I'm chasing a rabbit with up to this morning. It just kept happening over and over, and I had like 20 or 30 by the time I gave up and closed the settings window. Now, yesterday, I had login problems in my browser. Now, this happens the same way in the settings window, setting sounds with my browser as well. So I thought immediately, I'm thinking, oh God, a virus, and it's attached to my browser, which has attached to my sound settings, which is attached to Windows, and there's my problem. So I installed AVG free. I ended up yesterday on tech support with AVG because, which they assured me that it's not my AVG program that's going funky, it is actually the software in my computer, and they can't help me with that. So here I am again today, having sound issues, having software issues, and I've got a Windows sound, settings window that just pops up dozens and dozens of Firefox connections every time I try to set another one to the correct device. So at Sugapa, am I reading that right? Sugapa, 6.5 miles. Where are you at, Firefox?
I'm just landing there.
So I'm 6 miles out, coming in descent. I put these airports in today just because they are inline airports, and if you do these right, you should be able just to do touch and goes. Won't matter really much what the wind is doing because you're going to be at speed.
Be right back.
I don't know what my audio problem is. It's cutting in and out my audio. Oh, how about Cody's streaming? Crash! Helicopter parts for sale. Yeah, my voice mod didn't even bring it up. Why isn't it showing me streaming?
Okay, I'm back.
Hello, back. So have you been to stream? I'm trying to get there. Sugapa.
This is a bigger village.
Well, I've still got my wheels down. I haven't even done that. Say, this is a bigger village?
Yeah.
It's got a big old path coming into it.
Well, if you believe the simulator, it's a paved runway.
Oh, well, that's cool.
Although I've been on paved runways in the simulator when I know for a fact that they're not paved. So. But there's quite a few more buildings and roads and trails and stuff around here.
And I still don't see you. I'm at the runway. Oh yeah, a lot of stuff.
Jet power.
Well, this one's got a sharp drop off at the end of the runway too. Not sure what the opposite of 27 would be. Would that be 18? No, couldn't be.
No, 9. 09.
Yeah. So the number 9 runway kind of shoots off almost at treetop level. That's kind of interesting. But it drops right off on the hillside there. It's kind of cool. Run up here. Oh, and there's a big old village. There you go. I see. Well, why wouldn't it be paved? A lot of people here.
I have no reason to think why it wouldn't be, but
I mean, yeah, I believe it. If a Sobo says it, it's got to be true.
I have a theory too. The more people who get on their website and complain about different things, there's a programmer that does the airport layouts, and it's like every time he gets pissed off, it's like, well, I'm gonna put another tall tree in front of all the runways. I'll show you sons of bitches.
Eve Online is very community orientated, okay, and the developers are extremely open and out there. I mean, everybody knows who they are. They come on camera all the time. They talk about their opinions and what they're going to do, and the community really knows which one handles what kind of design, right? Design features. So, and has the influence in that area. So you get the blame. And it's funny to see them come up on stage and actually relate to, okay, we've been watching chat and I know a lot of you guys think it's this way. Let me explain myself. And it's funny, it's just funny to watch because we never had that. Back in the day when I was programming, nobody knew who you were. You didn't have any backlash. The people got exactly what they got, and that's all they got. No way to touch base with anybody, and there was no contact. You didn't have a phone number. I mean, I hate it now. You have to fish for a phone number to get hold of literally even Amazon. That's just the easiest found name that I can reference off the top of my head, but even that can be difficult. I don't think Restream's working today because my OBS has not connected to Restream yet today, so I don't think I'm on YouTube. I think all we have is a Twitch stream. I'll upload it later if that's the case. But I like big ships.
I got myself a freighter.
Called the Thunder and Swallow.
She's
She's
slow
bigger
and
than
she's
Bucky.
bulky.
Oh,
Oh,
what
what
a
a hoss. First time we set out from G to 201, I knew it wouldn't be easy. We made it this far, lumbering through the black like a dance. Every ganker out there just looking,
Not working.
but I can't help loving this clunky brick. I still get a kick. I like big ships and I cannot.
Well,
Other pilots can't deny when a freighter warps in with its cargo
calm that down.
and that massive hull is revealed. You get sprung, wanna pull up, cause you know that ship is stuffed with cargo to the brink. Gotta haul that load. Freighters never gets old. Dodging gankers left and right in the lanes of old. Every trip's an adventure, every haul
A story told.
catalysts in the
All right, well.
shadows.
You ready to look at the next
For
one?
a shot. But my slumber,
Or are you already on the way?
she gives it all.
Oh, she's got.
Where am I? I'm on the way to Victor Alpha.
Warping takes forever, like paint that never dries. But there's a magic in her lumber.
There's the music in the side.
Ugly and she's costly, and she's slow as can be. But when she hits that dock, it's a sight
Sad to see.
I like big ships and I cannot. You other pilots can't deny when a freighter warps in with its cargo, and that massive hull is revealed.
You get sprung, wanna pull up tough. You know that ship is stuffed with cargo to the brink, never haul that load.
Never gets
Gets
old.
old. Hitadipa.
Through the highs and the lows, every gate we cross, in the slumbering sloth, I'm the captain, I'm the boss. From the shield's last flicker, go safe touch. I can't help but love her.
Oh, I love her so much.
I like big ships and I cannot. You other pilots can't deny when the freighter warps in with its cargo, and that massive hull is revealed.
You get sprung, wanna pull up tough. You know that ship is stuck with cargo to the brink, gotta haul that load. All these things never gets old.
So here's to the freight, the haulers of the stars. Though they're slow and unwheeled, they're the true space stars. In the slumbering sloth, another spin. 'Cause flying big ships, man, fun begins.
Cause our children cannot lie. Feel the fate can't deny. When the freight walks into the cargo hold,
And that massive hole is
you just from wanna pull up stuff. Cause you know that ship is stuck. Cargo to the brink, gotta haul that load. And never gets old. I stand tall.
I can't even imagine in World War II what the Japanese were thinking when they decided they were going to march across this island.
Oh, huh. Interesting. That's an interesting piece of.
I mean, imagine yourself. You're a company commander. You've been sitting in wet canvas, underneath a tarpaulin tent for 3 weeks eating cold rice, and the big whiz comes back from a briefing and says, men, see that Navy out there in the water? Yeah, they're not going to take us around the island and put us on the other side. We're going to march over the top of these mountains. Yeah, it's like, wait, what? It was brutal. If you read any stories about the march across these islands, it was absolutely brutal.
No, I've never heard of it.
Oh yeah, well, I mean, look at this countryside, and
Oh, yeah.
Everything was muck and mud, and they were bringing what would that be called? I guess mechanized.
Yeah, artillery, yeah.
Trying to bring supplies and artillery and of course everything turned to soup and mud and it was nothing but steep hills and rivers to cross.
And most of this is basically rainforest to start with, yeah.
Yeah, and as a company commander, the big whiz comes back and says, "Hey, this is what we're doing," and I can imagine the company commander going, "Yeah, hey, I got your divine wind right here, buddy. Why don't you just put us on the boats and take us around to the other side? Why do we have to cross these horrible mountains?" And of course, back then was still because of lack of supplies. I mean, there were still malaria issues and fungus and foot rot, you name it.
And a lot of the consideration in making these flights is, what aircrafts can actually pull enough G's and get altitude this fast, and then you got to put that in rational correspondence with a foot soldier that's actually got to climb over these mountains and get to the other side. Now he's standing in the valley looking at yet another mountain to get to where he wants to go on the ocean on the other side of basically the other side of the continent.
He's looking at another mountain, but the other mountain is across another river.
Yeah.
You got all this crap across a river.
And the rivers are basically because the snow is melting on top of the mountain.
Oh, in fact, it's been raining for 3 weeks.
That too, yeah.
And we're not talking your basic summer Carolina rain. We're talking the kind of rain you can go out and take a shower in.
Right. Yeah, I don't see too much snow on top of the mountains. I guess that was kind of mood.
Yeah, I just
Well, that's really where I was with that Lewis and Clark flight a couple weeks ago. Is you just got to put yourself in those people's feet. No one had ever been here, to anybody's knowledge, and you go into it knowing that you're gonna be the one, or you're doing something, you're going to cross this country on a military mission because nobody would expect you to come from that region, or from that side of the, what do they call it, the campaign? What do they call that? But you're faced with, do I really have to do it this way? There's got to be an easier way than this.
I imagine, after weeks and months of struggle, and you finally get to a point where you built your big rafts, and now you're on this river, or you got your dugouts or boats or whatever. Now you're floating down this river, and you seem to be going in the right direction. It's like, yeah, life is good now. And one of your guys goes, "What's that sound? It's like a roaring sound, but I can't really place it." And then you come around the corner, and it's like, what?
Well,
where did the river go?
And I was reading the text on that Lewis and Clark expedition, and it's like they started out on the water and they had to abandon their boats, take only what they could carry, and go another however distance. I didn't look at that, but only to, as you say, find another body of water. They've got to buy boats to get down. The only commerce was with the unfriendly Indians who denied you the last time you were here. Their brothers told you no, and now you're faced with, you've got these boats, you're all cramped in, you've left again all you didn't have to put on these few boats that you could acquire, and you only to get to the point where, wait a minute, we've gone south for 100 miles, and you want me to go south for another 100 miles. Bear in mind, if I'm on the water, I'm not hunting. We're all hungry.
Yeah, but while you're
Another 100 miles to go south to get east to the ocean. Boss, you're making no sense.
But
You're
you're on this calm water. You're on this calm water that leads to resting, and then that roaring sound you're hearing.
Oh, is a waterfall.
Oh my God! There's like big rapids and a 40-foot drop coming up here. Paddle to the shore.
Nice that we're going faster without the breeze. This is comfortable. Wait a minute, what's that noise?
Yeah. What's that big cloud of mist coming? Why is that big cloud of mist coming off the water? And how come the water looks like it ends there? Oh, crap.
I mean, really, and we were expecting these kinds of challenges, but we've done this over and over, and you want me to do what? Abandon ship?
Yeah.
I just built this raft. I just paid the last of my beans to the Indians, and I'm hungry. Now I'm walking with a bow and arrow because I gave them my guns too. We've got two guns in the party, but we don't want to hunt with them because they'll make noise, and the new Indians we have to encounter might attack us because we're hunting on their hunting grounds. Scary world. You would not want to be an explorer. And thing is, space has really brought these realities to me, because now I'm looking at EVE Online and we're thousands of years later and everybody wants to kill you. Your predators are mankind.
Yeah. That's what cracks me up about all these science fiction movies. You know, some starship somewhere, they get to a planet, you know, and hey, it's a Class M planet. We can go down there, and you know, they step out of their little shuttle and they look around, and it's like, it's not these big monster creatures that are going to get you. It's going to be that little virus that you don't see, or you're going to walk past a plant and you're going to get a little pinprick on your finger, and then you're going to die because there's chemicals and viruses and bacteria that.
Well, but then you relate that to the little, didn't even need a pinprick that we gave the American Indians when the Europeans came to this body of land, and it's the same kind of thing, only it's deadly and to a lot of people, and you have no idea what's causing it. Quote unquote AIDS, cancers, you know, but it wasn't here before. It's got to be something I did. You know what I'm saying? And we don't want to take ownership for it. Yeah, I've in EVE Online, I've decided to start doing that, exploring, and it's really eye-opening, some of the things you have to struggle with and encounter. And it's like, oh wow, you know, it's almost so real. I had to remind my neighbor again this morning. He's playing Madden football, and he, you know, Tay, real life first, dude. You know, put it down for a minute. I mean, really. Put it down for a minute. Your dad needs something. So yet another on the way, little airport we'll be encountering here. And its IKO should be WAVA, Whiskey Alpha, Victor Alpha. Mulia. Like right on top of it. I'm not actually going to land there. It's a kind of a direct to airport. Looks like a grass strip this time. And we're just going to buzz the airport at about 160 knots. Mess up FAA's day something terrible because they think they're being strafed. Hey, there's no buildings or anything. Yeah, there's a little building. Looked like nothing but a grass strip there for a second. We gave them a proper strafing.
Look nav map, little nav map shows it as a grass, but ah, the sim is showing it to me as a paved runway. I think the term artificial intelligence, I think the term intelligence need a big set of air quotes around it.
It's what do they call it? Oh, there's a word for that. Like military intelligence and there you go. That's the word I'm looking for. Thank you. And I think the proper pronunciation is oxymoron, because it would be politically incorrect, and it is a new word in recent English history, within the last 50 years or so, I think. I think I remember reading that, so we're coming up on Ludea, about 5 miles.
I put the DC-3 down yesterday on a runway, and it must be because of my object level of detail. It was a nice, clean, open runway, but then as you get to touching down and rolling out on the runway, the artificial intelligence wants to put all these big, huge rocks out there in the middle of the runway. It's like, what the hell?
Well, if it's a dirt runway, that would make sense that the UI would.
Yeah, but big rocks, big boulders.
Yeah. They'll say that's just because you had your settings turned up so high.
Well, it's the same guy that's putting the big tall trees at the end of every runway. We'll show them. That'll keep them from complaining.
And it's funny. That's kind of where I was going, and I didn't ever make it there. But that's where I was going with that story about being able to actually speak to the DMs, the developers. He's like, okay, if that's the way you feel, fine. Look at it next time, buddy.
Yeah.
Fix your goose. Okay, I'm just going to slow down. That does look like a paved runway to me. That's weird. You talking about Mulia was a grass runway?
Little map shows it as grass.
Oh, okay. I didn't look at little map that close, but it had it as a brown, which is semi-large airport.
Yeah, no, but in little map when I zoomed in on it, the green went away. And no, it shows that it says it's asphalt. So, yeah, might be accurate.
Well, that's what I was saying. I didn't actually. Yeah, I didn't actually look at the shows it with a brown circle on my little map. Back up speed about 120, coming up on it, and staying on the flight path. Sure wish I could see anybody. But I don't. I saw Mojo in Sim earlier. He was actually, I guess, in Xbox showing up. I don't see him in the flight either.
haven't seen any, but I haven't seen any tags. I'm wondering if I have another setting set that I'm not seeing any tags.
I don't think so. I think it's just an Asobo
Yeah,
thingy.
it's hard to say down. Hard to say down here, you know, because there really could be nobody around us.
Yeah, but we ought to be able to see each other. That should be the
We
proof.
should.
That should be the proof.
And normally, you know, if you get up high enough and look around, normally you see the simmers that are flying the airliners and stuff. They may be off at a distance, but you normally see something out there.
Have we determined what that distance is yet?
I have no idea.
I mean, you notice with 24, they finally did, with one of the updates, put the distances on the viewer, but only if you're within a certain amount of range of that tag. Otherwise, it doesn't even show the distance; it just shows the tag. But only up to another certain distance, and nobody's ever came out with those numbers for distances of viewing ability, huh?
And would it be true to say that the distance detail, you know, the most detail on a tag that includes the distance and all that, is only on one tag at a time?
I believe so. I believe it is the in focus, and we do have a feature for that, but it's not relevant to the close, to the proximity tag. So yes, they are different, and it still uses a focus relativity. In other words, it has something to do with it in that case. But it is relative to who you're actually looking at, who your central viewer.
Let's see what they say.
I don't think the distance tag is the one that you can see 100 miles off. I think it's 100 miles, but I'm not even sure about that because I can't get any. I don't see that anywhere. Nobody with authority or that knows is in the know has said that to me. And I consider you one of those people kind of in the know. Might have those. Well, you do the searches and have the right connections, go to the right web pages. A lot of even myself would land on a web page that may or may not be as accurate as something you hold more accurate. Know to be more accurate, I should say.
So I usually start my searches with MSFS 2024, and then whatever subject I'm looking for. And the first thing that comes up is some Microsoft forum clear back from 2021.
Right.
Talking about tech. It's like, no.
And that's what I mean. You know, I used to, I don't know, have you ever heard of web crawler?
Yeah.
From way back in the day, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Web crawler was a software, just put it out there in content, that before we had Google, before we had any of the spider, quote unquote, that's what they were called, spider software, that would go out and find keywords. You would do searches on the internet, on IRC, for keywords. So you would have to include comma, another keyword, comma, another keyword, quote unquote, if you wanted exact Boolean relativity. And that's what they would use and go by as the Boolean descriptors. So this software, web crawler, would go out here's what I was in search of. I ran did some moving of wood products for woodyard pallets and stuff after they created the lumber for the pallet, and we would deliver it to the Amish who would make the pallet out of those boards. And then we'd pick the pallets up anyway. The search engine would actually find me buyers, but I would have to give it all of the proper keywords. And back in the day, before we had Google to separate all of these things, your sex websites would put hatchet as a keyword on it. It would put woodcutter on there. It would put every word in the English dictionary, so that no matter what you searched for, you would get their website as a return in your search engine.
Right.
So I literally would come back with tens of, up to sometimes hundreds of thousands of web pages that were supposedly, quote unquote, relative to my search. And then you started weeding out the bad ones that didn't have anything to do with what you were looking for. Things were not much simpler then. So that's basically the spider engine, and I get that. It just makes searches so difficult, because the brainiacs got together and, okay, well, if the guy looking for a woodyard isn't going to come to my sex website, I'll put woodyard on his search return. It's so...
Okay, Microsoft 2024 multiplayer all players option does not work. Flickering lights on the apron, traffic nameplate range slider option. I don't think that's it.
So I have Carabuga Airport kind of en route here at 3.1 nautical miles and 5.57 nautical miles, as well as, look over here to the right, 3.00 miles. All three airports within my flight viewing are Carabuga Airport. As we pass one of them.
Yeah.
So I guess Carabuga has 3 airports, big city of Carabuga, with a trail leading from one to another, a trail, a mule trail. Amazing.
I've seen that in other places too.
Uh-huh.
And I don't whether it's a mistake in little nav map or the cartography, or whether there actually is, like the same city name, 2 or 3 different airports.
But I'm calling off pins in the sim. I'm calling off POIs in the sim.
Oh, in the sim, yeah.
Yeah, POIs in the sim. So it's not a little nav map issue. It's something.
Are they all airports, or are they just other places of interest?
No, they're airports. All 3 of them were airports in that immediate vicinity Like we would have San Francisco has how many airports? You know, probably a few, really, when it comes down to it. So they're in different locations, but as you pass over them, you might see this one and that one and the other one, but they're not all called San Francisco Commercial Airport. You know, they're not all
Yeah.
labeled with the same ID. Now, I'm sure the IKOs are probably different, but they all have the same the same, not identifier, but yeah, identifier, right? The name of your airport
Identifier.
is not the IKO. The identifier is the name, not the IKO. Is that right? Or is the identifier the IKO?
Yeah. Usually the identifier is the IKO.
Okay, so the POI is calling it such and such airport, so I was using a relativity thinking, okay, such and such must be a name of a town or a city, which spreads over these 4 hilltops that I'm passing by airports. Like maybe it refers to a regional thing, and it doesn't matter. You know, you'd have to know which airport. Maybe they're, because I do have city POIs off, but the airport's on. Jayawarya. Oh, Jayawarya. As we cross over 160. Do you want to stop anywhere across here?
No, I'm good.
Yeah, since, I mean, just you and me. I just kind of want to get low enough to see the airport. And
I just hit the tanker and did a little aerial refueling, so I'm good.
yeah, I got real sly with 24, and I've got a button that refuels and does all my maintenance in here. I like that little refuel and maintain. And I like the fact that when I press it, I can actually see the aircraft get heavier.
Yeah. Well, I made the mistake. I've been cruising, right up near the red line on the FLI, and then I jumped in there and just added 50% fuel. Immediately over torque.
Right? Yeah, I think my step's like 25%, but so I had my annual CT done the other day. Now my doctor wants to see me. Think she just wants to pat me on my back. Tell me what a great job I've been doing at staying healthy in my age. Maybe that I'm spry as a 16-year-old or something, right? I mean, you got to look at these things positive, right?
Brad, wake up! You're dreaming again.
Wake up, driver! You're gonna crash!
Helicopter parts for sale.
Yeah, I'm pretty pessimistic, and I can understand wanting to do a doctor's appointment and have a conference with the doctor, but there are times that you go back into a doctor and it's just like, yeah, you went and did all these tests and everything looks good, and got nothing to worry about, but go ahead and pay your copay on the way out over here. It's like, dude, you could have done that on the phone for 5 minutes.
Right. And see, I really don't have that issue. And as I approach 65, I'm having to pick a Medicare program and be very careful that those kind of things are continuing to be in my provided list of things, because I just can't. No way I'm going to pay $100 to come in and have you tell me I'm fine.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
In fact, my provider, and I just want to put it out there, on stream, my provider is Molina, and my provider actually pays me a Walmart gift card, 3 different procedures adding to a total of $125 over the year. Just so I go in and have my A1C tested on them. I never pay a dime. Have my A1C, have a vision diabetic vision test, and to have a wellness visit. And they pay me for these things.
Well, somebody figured out along the way that it's actually cheaper to do that and catch things early than have to pay for them when they're completely out of hand.
And that's why I told my counselor that I'm so happy with my medical provision list at this point. I can't even tell my daughter, yes, I'd move back to Florida, because I just don't know I'd have the same medical care that I do here. I mean, it's really, it's hard to make those decisions as you get older and you wish you had somebody around.
Yeah.
I never realized.
Yeah, that's kind of the reality that we're at too. I mean, like I know we've talked about this before, but the town that I'm living in originally was just on the way to somewhere else during my career, and as we got older, this was just on the way to somewhere else. Well, we've been here 30 years now, and if we look at leaving here and finding a final landing place that we want to spend the rest of our years at.
Right.
It's a hard reality. Now we got to be close to some major medical facilities.
And
So,
we really don't.
Going out to Papua New Guinea and getting a cabin in the rainforest, that's probably not in the cards.
I don't. Yeah, and I was Firehawk. I was there for 20 years. I do homeless right. I mean, I still have a closet full of gear that if my house burns down, I can grab my bug out bag and I have a tent, clothes, and everything I need. The only other thing I need to pick up is my laptop, as the gaming PC and streaming PC burn down in the house around me. So you know, I know what homeless is, and it's just it's hard to. I forget where we were.
But even at this point, it's like you're just like you're talking about access to, you know, medical.
Well, I don't think we're teaching our children the importance of how we're going to end up in our age. My dad tried real hard to teach me that, you know, things were going to be different and that I was going to have to pay attention to certain things that were going to cost me more in my old age, that I'd better save now. Daddy always said, save your pennies, son, you know, for anything I wanted, and then didn't really teach me the hardships that I was literally hardships that I was going to go through in my age in finding the right care. So when I landed here as a homeless individual and saw the outreach of the local people, decided this was where I was going to retire. And I just feel led to this place because I would not have had the care that the medical care that I have here anywhere else or any of the other locations that I've been in. I've been everywhere as a truck driver, you know, wayward homeless individual and other things in my life that I can take an overview and say, okay, I've heard the horror stories about my daughters being handled, how the state of Florida is handling her Medicare and Medicaid, and say, okay, that's not for me, and I'm actually in a good place, being taken care of well. I just don't know how to replace that, and I don't know how I would be able to function in my age had I not ended up in the position that I'm in where I'm at now. Nobody taught that to me. I just fell into it. And how many of our youth are going to end up, even when I say our youth, I mean the 30 and 40-year-olds that are approaching those ages and haven't been taught. You're going to end up with some big decisions as you get older and your health starts failing and you have these minor things that you have to keep corrected and prevent from getting worse in your aging process.
Both of my daughters are now over 40, and I think now when we talk about that kind of stuff, they're kind of paying attention and it's making sense. But you know, before
Exactly.
you know, you start talking about that, their eyes just
Yeah, you roll back in the back of their heads,
yeah.
tongue hang out, tickle the crack of that, and
Well, all through my career in the I worked for the state, mostly for the state of California, and then I had a stint working for the state of Alaska. But you know, working as a state employee, you know, in the inter-office mail, you always get these brochures and flyers and stuff for, you know, the retirement seminars and retirement planning and you know, investment planning for your retirement. I mean, all these things. And I remember the day I was sitting in my office and I was going through my stack of mail, and normally I would just look at that stuff, you know, right into the trash can. And one day I went to throw it away and it kind of stuck to my thumb. And I brought it back in my hand and I looked at it and I went, you know, it's probably about time I had to start paying attention to this shit.
and that's really where I've
How
come.
many years did I go that it was just so far out in the future?
I don't need to worry about that now.
I couldn't even conceive of that, of why that would even be necessary. And then one day it's like, oh, well, that's really not very far away.
It's not like it's even snuck up on me. You know, I've known that I had COPD forever. I knew it wasn't going to get any better, and I knew one day I was going to have worse issues if I, didn't maintain some respectable cutoff level of the habits that I was indulging in. Oh man. If I'd only known then what I know now.
I don't know if it would have made any difference.
No, because somebody was trying to beat that into my head even then, and I didn't recognize it until now anyway. So, like you said, your eyes just glaze over, your head eyes go back in the back of your head. Like, yeah. Yada, yada, yada.
When they were 18, 20, 25, I mean, they couldn't even imagine being 40 or 50 or 60. And now that they both crossed that 40 threshold, it's like that little light came on, that little bell in the back of the brain dinged. It's like, oh, this getting old stuff is serious.
My first wife told me at one point, she said, "Oh, you'll never grow up." I said, "What do you mean? I have changed. I mean, I'm the same person. Those things haven't changed about me, but I have changed. And I think I'm grown up." "No, you'll never grow up." About 45, I realized, I gotta quit living like I was 17. Maybe I do need to grow up.
I saw a stand-up comic actually make a comment of this, and the reason it was funny to me is because I had noticed it myself, but his comment was, he dropped his car keys or something on the floor, and he bent over to pick them up, and as he stood up, he's kind of going, oh.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, when did that start?
And I think I mentioned this. My dad was a very, I didn't realize how, to what degree, proud man he was, but he had a wired up back since he was 18, drove his car off a cliff. And he was in a lot of pain throughout his life, but he had always had a habit of humming. As I got older, I realized his hum was always as he stooped down, bent over, picked something up, did something, and his pride would not allow him to groan. He would hum through that pain, and you never knew he was experiencing it. And he would literally go,
Yeah.
Dear old dad.
That keeps the 4-letter words in check.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, and he did. He just very even-keeled man that never expressed those outrages and pains in his life. That as I got older, I realized that, man, you don't want somebody to know you're about to cry, go, and even the tears don't roll at that point.
Yeah.
Stiff upper lip, old chap. Chin up and all. So Elim would be the only cross runway airport we have today at 3.5 miles away. Come in and just kind of fly over and make my turn back onto flight plan. because I descended a little bit to get a look at the airport, we'll have to get some air under us. So I'm not gonna get too low. 2.5 out. Yeah, sure wish we seen the tag back there. Nice, pretty sunset. Looking good in the rear. Click on the window to make the app active so I can get back in the cab and look at the airport. To get back on flight plan. Adjusting course. Raising altitude. Looks like it may be a dirt runway. It might be tarmac. It looks pretty clean for a dirt, so to speak, runway. Doesn't have any markings on it, though. Some air under us. Can't help but think the barren ground that I'm seeing, these patches of barren ground, could be more. The LOD isn't developing any ground textures on them. It just kind of looks barren spots of land. I wonder.
Yeah, I noticed that.
Okay, so but you're running on pretty high graphics, I would imagine.
Actually, it varies because I'm running a program called MSFS Auto FPS by a company called Reset Exponder, Reset Transponder. And when you run that, what it does is you set a target frame rate that you would like to see, and then it automatically, as you fly and you change altitude, it automatically adjusts terrain level of detail, object level of detail, and cloud detail. So, for example, when you're on the ground with a pretty limited view, there's no reason to have a real high terrain level of detail because everything's pretty close in.
Right.
By the opposite, when you're like right now, I'm at 6,500 feet. When you're up pretty high, it can turn the terrain level of detail up to, right now I'm running at 510, and the object level of detail is set at about 120, because you don't need to see all the grass and the flowers and the pine needles and all that kind of detail. So it turns down all the the grass, the trees, all that kind of stuff. However, having said that, a terrain level of detail at 510, I don't expect to see such a small circle around me of the detail showing up on the landscape. Like you said, there's all these bare spots, and it looks like fuzzy areas until you get pretty close, and then it starts filling in with the basic tree structure and everything.
Yeah.
And at 510, I mean, this ought to be about as far as I can see. So it might have to do with the fact that this area isn't very well mapped, for a better lack of a better term. In other words, they may not have all of the vegetation and elevation data here that they might have, say, in the U.S. and Europe and other more populated places.
The path less traveled.
Yes, there you go.
Less travel, less history of travel means that less people in the world, the entire FS community, have been here. So we don't need to pay as much attention. We can focus more on these other places where everybody seems to go all the time, or at least a large number frequents this.
Well, not even just in the sim. The default for the simulator is their own Microsoft Bing data satellite data.
So you're saying even the player database of where they live comes into play with how important that area, because they live in more or less populated areas.
Well, it has to do with the customer base that you're serving. In other words, Bing satellite data. This is a derived product.
Right,
This
right,
is like,
right.
hey, we can supply it to the game, but they're doing resource cataloging, elevation cataloging. They've got sensors on those satellites that probably can predict oil and gas and all kinds of natural resource stuff. That's the whole point of that stuff. We don't ever see it, but that's what they're doing. And so when you're serving a customer base, the United States and Europe and Australia, those are going to be highly detailed. But when they do the passes over here, they might go, yeah, you know what? We'll just archive that stuff. We don't really need to analyze it right now.
Right.
And I've noticed that even in the U.S. or like you go up into Canada, there's some places in southern Canada that are very well detailed, but you go farther north, the terrain graphics gets a little what I call phoned in, where you start seeing the patterns on the ground, because that's just the computer going, I'm not bringing all this detailed data in.
For
I'm
two
gonna
people.
Take a sample set, and I'm just going to repeat it. Yeah.
For two people, because they're the only two people who have ever been here in the entire history of the sim, and they happen to live here. That's why they chose this airport. So, but that means it can't be very important. And if they're the only ones that are ever going to, I'm not going to make a special effort to, what do they call it, handcraft this particular airport, much less the trees in the area.
Or even just bring in the greater detail of the imagery.
the bare spots where the trees might be.
It's like, my gosh, that might cost me a couple of more terabyte in a hard drive. That's money. That
Well, no. What it is designer time, and they have to pay that designer. So you are looking at an expense in order for that designer to find the exact GPS coordinate of that tree to place it in that autogen scenario. So if you overplace the number of trees, now you've gone past the reality of that imagery that you're trying to translate into the sim.
I'm still talking even pre-simulator, just the data that they're collecting and having it available for whatever use.
Right. I get you.
Maybe the railroad wants to go and they go to Microsoft and they go to and say, hey, we want to purchase some of your Bing data that you have. We're interested in this kind of data.
And Microsoft, having watched Google rise, understands the importance of what they were creating when they created Bing.
Yeah.
The importance being multi-user implementation. In other words, the flight sim can use it, all of the community. Not only that, but the industrialist that wants to map his railroad, as you were saying, and know the terrain data.
How about environmentalists that are looking for, bug kill in the greater Idaho forests?
Right.
Or
And by satellite imagery, we should be able to produce that for him, and he should also be able to benefit and pay to us a price for that benefit as
absolutely.
yet another corporation that can use our wonderful product, which originated by a simple satellite image that we created. But that's what I was saying about, back in the day and posting to IRC is that really is what became Google. That's what became the information services, and really even the search engine became a recognized need. And look what we can do with this if we can only outsource and resource that data. Wow. By simply and
think of this from a societal standpoint in terms of history. The name Google not only represents the company name, but it is now a verb for doing a search. And talk about being locked into the lexicon of a society, and no one even thinks about it anymore. Well, Google that. Well, I don't know, but Google that. And no one says Bing that. No one says Yahoo that.
And no one says, well, how fast are my legs going to be able to have to move to do whatever you're talking about? What's Google you want me to do? How fast am I going to have to run? Which finger do I use for that? What's Google? You're saying I'm going to do this?
I think Tupperware and Kleenex probably they're kind of in the same boat. That there's a lot of different facial tissues out there, but most people just call them Kleenex.
How?
There's a lot of different storage containers out there for food, but somebody's, hey, grab that Tupperware over there, would you? It's like, well, at what point, that talk about a success, a business success in a societal sense, is that your name now becomes an action verb for doing something like that. You are locked in, baby.
Think about poor Murphy. Poor Murphy and his name being attached anytime something goes wrong. It's Murphy's Law, Don't be a Brad, man. Well, don't pull a Brad. Don't pull an ice, man.
I'm laughing because when my daughter was working as a mechanic, somebody would drive in and they had a Ford, and they'd come in and they'd go, my car is doing this, it's making this noise, or it's doing this or that, and so she'd grab the clipboard and walk out, and she'd walk up to the vehicle, especially like a truck, and of course the Ford has the blue oval in the dash, right? It says Ford. And she would just look at it and go, well, look at that right there. There's your problem right there. She'd point to the Ford
emblem, yeah.
There's your problem right there. It's advertised right on your grill.
Can't you read? Didn't you know what you were buying? What? Everybody knows. Why do you think it was found on the road dead?
Yeah.
Duh.
And I was reminded a couple of years ago, FORD, but if you do it backwards, I mean, it's found on road dead, but if you do it backwards, it's driver returns on foot.
And see, it's dwarf. Well, I want to know where we got some of these insulting dweeb. What's a dweeb? A nerd? Who ate that?
Yeah.
Where'd we get some of these names? Make no sense. A dweeb. How did we get dweeb? Where'd that come from? He's such a nice man. What a dweeb. My neighbors think I'm nuts because every Sunday I'm dressed in my uniform shirt, right, and I'll go out on the balcony, have me a smoke or something, and chat with my neighbor. And it's like, going to work? No. Going to play.
I used to, with my employees, say like on Sunday mornings, if we had to be on duty on Sunday mornings, I would offer them a challenge. We had a origin of terms, origin of phrases challenge, and part of my motivation for doing that with them was to get them used to using the internet, searching the internet, trying to find information and find data. And so it was kind of an exercise on, how to do that, because the internet, back in those days, the internet was still fairly new for everybody. And, but, I might walk out at 10 o'clock in the morning and go, okay, everybody, the challenge for the day is, where did the term, define heave to and prepare to be boarded. Where did that term come from? What does it mean? Explain the history behind it and all that. And at first, everybody's going, we got to do this again. Well, then everybody got into it because we started learning some pretty interesting stuff about where terms like, dweeb, nerd, stuff like that. Where did those terms come from? What does it mean?
Well, that's really why I bought that book, Life's Imponderables, was because if you recall when I read off a few of those, a few of them are really, wow, I never knew that. Yeah, I kind of wondered, or I never even thought of that. Wow, I've been saying that for years and no idea what it means. I've been using it a whole different way. I thought, they're. I mean, comparing apples and oranges came from a computer diagnostic statement. You can't combine Hewlett-Packard parts in a Dell computer because, or actually, I think it was Mac and Windows, wasn't it? Or Mac and PC. Brought up the apples and oranges. Apples being Apple products, and where'd they get oranges in this equation to begin with? Because, right, that's where apples and oranges, comparing apples and oranges came from, that diagnostic conundrum that the programmers were facing, right?
I don't know. I've never heard that.
You've never heard of comparing apples and oranges? Okay, when did it start? Yeah, if I'm not mistaken, I'm pretty sure it was because we were trying to put computer parts, from like a Mac. Why can't we get this to work in a PC? And it was because you're trying to implement apples and oranges. The two languages don't connect. It's Totally different objects, apples and oranges. And I'm pretty sure it became a common phrase as of the Apple products and the software issues and hardware issues that we were facing as a computer growth. Hey Siri, where did apples and oranges originate? No, it gives me where apples originated.
Yeah. I usually end up my Siri sessions with asking it, what good are you?
Yeah, I've done that. Oh, I'm sorry. I tried my best. Oh, and now she's gonna, it's okay, because she thinks I was apologizing. Hey Siri, the phrase apples and oranges, when did it start? First appeared in print, oh, my bad. My bad. Ooh, way off ice. Way the flip off. 1670. The phrase or idiom apples and oranges first showed up in print in 1670 by John Ray, who was a well-known writer. One such proverb was apples to oysters, apples to oranges.
Huh.
Okay. My bad. I was way off there. I was pretty sure I started hearing it at or about the Apple products when I was, but I had just started programming and couldn't figure out why I couldn't use this part in my PC because it came out of a Mac. And I always thought that was relative, and it is not, guys. That's so far off. Started in 1670, didn't have anything to do with Apple products. Yay. So once again, I've proven my lack of knowledge. I still say that's the first I ever heard of it, was apples and oranges. So it says the best example, comparing the reading ability of a toddler and an adult, would be comparing apples and oranges. However, comparing the ability of male and female of the same age would be a better comparison.
No.
That's just what this English
Yeah.
to
To me, that would be comparing toddler to adults, would be comparing old apples to young apples.
right. Boogalaga, Papa. SunDay, FunDay. Yay.
So I guess all this area that we've been flying in is all considered part of Indonesia. We don't quite cross the border into Papua New Guinea.
Right. I think little Namnak actually shows the landmass as New Guinea, Papua New Guinea, but it
No,
separates. Yeah, it separates. Yep, it separates a boundary line from Papua and separates it from Papua New Guinea. So there is a difference. I saw that. I was noticing that also this morning. So Papua is part of Indonesia, you're saying. And Papua New Guinea is actually a nation.
Yeah, an independent, yeah.
Which is not here.
No, we're not yet. We won't cross the border today. We'll get close, probably within about 40 miles of it. Let's see, 50, yeah, about 30 miles of it, maybe.
I'm slowing down, chill. Okay.
Oh, I see the labels now. Yeah, west of the border, but it's not in dark black like a
Right.
It's just like, so Papa, and then there's West Papa.
Right. And that's on a peninsula all of its own.
Yeah. And then in the black labeling, all of that west of Papua New Guinea, all of that is considered Indonesia. And Papua New Guinea's independent. The other thing I've noticed is did you look at the link between the south end of Papua New Guinea and Australia? There's actually a whole bunch of islands and airports. Would make it pretty easy to do a hop across there.
Okay. So maybe we need to continue on Papua and make a hop over to Australia.
I can't do that today.
He says, yeah, I think we better plan that time-wise. I might be able.
But that would be fun, yeah. We could do that, hop over and get into Australia, and then come follow the Gold Coast down the ways.
And I tell people about the world tour all the time, and they think, okay, so he did a world tour, touched, 72,000 miles. What'd that take him? A week? I say, no, 2.5 years, man. Well, what'd you do, walk?
Last time we went to North Carolina, it took us over 2 weeks, almost 2.5 weeks to get there.
Well, last time I went to North Carolina, I was coming out of Tampa, Florida, and that's 670 miles. It took me a little more than 2 weeks. It took me almost a month, or just a little over a month, about 40 days.
It was on bicycle, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Approximately 5 to 6 mile an hour, and a lot of brakes.
Yeah.
So in my H145, the top two are like RPMs, right? And the bottom two are torque.
What are you looking at? On the VMS page?
Yeah. So you got four round gauges. Two of them are torque, two of them are RPMs, right? Two of them, what are the other two? Is that right?
Well, you're in the 160 right now, aren't you?
Yeah.
I'd have to look. I'm in the 145. I got three gauges per engine. Top one is torque.
Right.
Then there's turbine outlet temperature, TOT, and then there's the N1 percent of RPM. Not actual RPM, it's just N1 is percent.
Okay. And
So I'm
explain
in the
explain that
60 or
explain N1. Well, how do I set my N1 if I don't know what N1 is?
No, you don't set it, but you need to monitor it so it doesn't. So it's it's within parameters. In the simple answer is N1 is the front end of the turbine that grabs the outside air and compresses it. That's your initial compressor. Okay, and then that feeds that compressed air into the combustion box, into the combustion chamber.
So don't you set an N1 threshold in your autopilot in that one? It's one of the autopilot settings in your bindings. In the options, in the bindings, N1 is an autopilot. It's N1 hold or N1 something.
Yeah, I think you can increase it or decrease it or whatever, but I don't think it applies to the hype. It doesn't apply to the hype stuff.
Okay.
And because there may be other aircraft in which you can, bump the limits up and down depending on what you're trying to do. But no, generally that's not something that you set.
Oh, okay.
But maybe some aircraft, yeah, maybe it is, like in maybe some airplanes.
So I understood when they first started this project, and I was literally reading, what is it, D172 manuals. I forget what the designation anyway. The old H145 manuals. I read very clearly that two of those three gauges, if they go into the red on those engines, if they go into the red, they can only be there for a period of time, very short. It was 5 seconds and 30 seconds, I want to say, on the two red lines. If you bump that, you're going to do damage to the engine if you do it longer than this. And in some cases, the second more pertinent was okay, if you've done it for this long, then you've got permanent damage and we'll have to have maintenance done. So I've always watched those two pop up in red so I don't break that threshold and have to have maintenance.
And that's one of the things that the FLI, as a first limit indicator, it's watching all of those parameters and basically giving you, the one right now that's going to drive your limit. depending on altitude, temperature, and weight, and all that kind of stuff. So it's a combination of all of those, and whatever that red line is on your FLI is representing the worst case instrument at this particular moment that you're approaching. And it's usually, I think it's a 30 and a 5. You can go into the red for 30 seconds, and then you can go into like when it's bonging at you into the red. You can do that for 5 seconds.
Better pay attention.
That's what they call a transient over torque. So
And
sometimes a gust of wind will do that, or if you need to suddenly clear a power pole on takeoff, that it allows you a few seconds of that. But
and that's what causes a lot of that. A lot of times is what causes the transmission, the chip occurrence in your transmission.
yes,
Because
Yes.
you've tried to spin it so hard that it's crunching against itself and leaving remnants.
well that's it. The transmission is probably the weakest link. All the gears in there are probably the weakest link. Temperatures, when you over torque an engine, quote unquote, you're really just it's an over temp situation. You're feeding too much fire into that box for what the materials are able to handle for long term. But you're right. Over torque really has to do with the gears in the gearbox.
Okay, so I started all this to say that everything in my top two gauges, okay, one on each engine obviously, but was good. But my other two gauges were red, and I couldn't get it to come back down. How do I adjust so that now what's the two in the center bottom? So you got three on each side. So there's
Right. So turbine outlet temperature, and then your compressor RPM. Okay. And so basically, no matter what, if any of those are in the red, it just requires a power reduction, which means you need to slow down and reduce collective. Quit asking so much.
right. But I couldn't get it to.
It's
I did
trying
that.
to take that whole Ford pickup up the hill in top gear.
Yeah. And I did that, and I wasn't getting any results. I mean, I wasn't able to pull it out of that condition for some reason. And at some point, it's going to. I don't know if you call it a VRS or what, but now VRS is different than Vortex, right?
No, that is Vortex ring state.
So it is the same.
Yeah, but that has to do with
The way
vertical descent and stalling. Basically, is what's happening.
the
You're
airflow,
falling into your air, stalling the rotor blade.
the airflow or lack thereof in the blade area.
Yeah, in the disc area.
In the yeah. So I timed that pretty well perfect, just at sunset coming into Oxable, with all the pretty lights on the runway. Nice airport to come into. Gear down. Descending a bit too rapidly here. Hang on, grab it before I get vortex.
Yeah, we just had another person in the Discord yesterday asking, hey, how come every time I come in and land, I arrive at my point, I come into a hover, and then as I'm descending down to land, the thing just falls out of the sky and crashes. It just this is not Mario Bros. This is not a
Don't try to do that.
simulator.
Don't try to do that quite so fast.
Yeah. And so I went through this whole thing and brought up a bunch of old discussions we'd had before, and I had pictures and about no, think horizontal, think forward airspeed, VRS explained all that. And then later in the afternoon, he wrote back and said, "That was the first landing I've ever done without going into vortex ring state. Thank you."
And all they had to do was go a little slower with his descent. Yeah.
And approach more like an airplane than come in 1,000 feet over your LZ and drop the collective down to the floor.
Because you want to drop. You're over top of it. You need to go straight down now, but not that fast.
Yeah, exactly.
Not that fast.
Well, it's a helicopter. How come I can't do that? It's a helicopter.
Back among the living. Guys, thanks for joining SunDay FunDay Flight Sim 2024 on High Performance Group's Discord. Unfortunately, I don't think we had a YouTube post out of today's stream, but we'll try to get that next time. Appreciate everybody joining us. Hope you join us in flight, actual, real life, simulated, virtual flight reality. In the sim every Sunday, 12 Eastern Standard Time. Hope we'll see you next time. Firehawk, appreciate you flying with us today, buddy.
You bet.
We'll catch everybody next time. Thanks again.
Okay. See you later.